14 freaking years. 14 years I have been living with transverse myelitis. Hello my night wolves and welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we are talking again about my disability. Now, I have been questioning for many freaking years, how I got my transverse myelitis. I've never known. The doctors never really gave me an answer. So one day when I was at my OGBYN doctor, that is for ladies, for when they want to go have a baby or have a problem down in that general direction down below. So I was in there and I told her many times about my transverse myelitis. Like, every time I go in there, she asks me about it. Like, because she sees me walking and she's like, oh, why are you walking like that? Or she'll see my brace and she's like, why you have that on there? And like, no matter how many times I see this lady, she always forgets that I told her about my transverse myelitis. Well, this time I went, it was a couple weeks ago, and it's always been bothering me what she said to me. And I should have like known, but for some reason I didn't. And you know what? I've looked up transverse myelitis so many times, read about it and everything like that, but it never clicked in my freaking head that this could be the thing. So 13, I was diagnosed with transverse myelitis, and I thought it was a spinal cord injury. It somehow, some way, I injured my spine and I ended up with transverse myelitis. Now, when I went to my OGBYN and I told her about my transverse myelitis and how the doctors never knew how I got it, and I told her about the time that this girl slammed me up against the wall, but it stayed dormant and didn't like take effect or anything like that until weeks later, and she's like, no, you probably had an infection that gave you transverse myelitis. I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, whatever. She's a doctor. She knows what she's talking about. But at that time, I'm just like, whatever, and kind of blew it off. But if it's bugging me, it's been bugging me ever since then. I'm like, okay, so I've looked up transverse myelitis, I don't know how many times in my life to read up on it, to understand what the frick's going on. But not once did it hit or dawn on me that it might have been an infection that was in my body that gave me transverse myelitis. Yes, face palm to the freaking face. I am such a freaking idiot. I don't know, like, the doctors never really gave me a clear like thing, like, oh yep, you had an infection in your body and this is what gave it to me, unless they did and I just forgot about it because I was 13 at the time and I was going through a lot, so it just never like stuck to my mind that it was an infection that was in my body. So I want to read you guys something, give you guys a picture about transverse myelitis. Okay, so here we are. I looked up, how do you get transverse myelitis? I think I looked this up, I don't know how many times, and read this thing so many times, but yeah, it never occurred to me. Okay, so cause of transverse myelitis includes infection, immune system disorders, and other disorders that may damage or destroy myelin. I don't know how to say that word, sorry. This word right here, myelin, I don't know. The fatty white insulating substance that covers nerves and nerve cell fibers. So yeah, so this dark spot I'm guessing right there is the transverse myelitis, or no, I think it's this part right here, the little white thingy. Like, I like, seriously, I looked up transverse myelitis, I don't know, so many times, and read about it, and then think like, oh, it might have been an infection or immune system disorder or like one of the other things. It doesn't mean that I damaged my spine, it just means that I had like an infection or something like that in my body and it affected my spine. So yeah, it never occurred to me, like, it just didn't, because I thought it had to been something that, like, I did something to my back, or that girl did something to my back, or something like that. I've been blaming that girl because I hated her for so long because of what she did to me. She attacked me out of the blue. Today, I sat here digging through everything in my closet because my mom, she keeps everything, and I mean everything in from our childhood. And I thought that she might have gotten a report from the school about the attack, or the report about my transverse myelitis, and like saying like, oh, it was an infection and it spread to her spine or something like that. I wanted proof that it happened, but I looked through everything, read a lot of things, and I could not for the life of me find anything about my transverse myelitis, if it was an infection or anything like that. Like, I found a lot of things about my transverse myelitis, but nothing that said, oh, it was a infection that ran through my body or anything like that. Like, I couldn't find anything, and I couldn't find anything about the girls attacking me in school. Don't know, it never occurred to me. It really didn't. So 14 freaking years, 14 flippin' years, I've been trying to figure out how I ended up with transverse myelitis. I never knew why or how it happened. I just knew that this thing happened to me when I was 13 years old, and I ended up in the hospital. But like I said, the doctor might have told me like, oh, it was an infection that was in your body and it affected your spine. They might have told me that, but because there was so much going on at that time that I did not like hear it or something. I don't know. It's a lot for a 13-year-old girl to go through, you know? So could you blame me? And then for 13 freaking years, no, 14, sorry. For 14 freaking years, I sat here wondering how I managed to damage my spine and end up in this position. When it ended up, my body betrayed me and gave me an infection and made me this way. Yay, body, for betraying me. It's like legitly, it's stabbing me in the back. My own body stabbed me in the back. The reason why I wanted to find a thing about the girl slamming me up against the wall, because I wanted to see if it had a date on it for when it happened, and then find evidence of when I went into hospital and try to line it up to see if it was the girl slamming me up against the wall that made me this way or what. But like I said, I couldn't find anything, so I don't know. But I'm just going to assume that it was an infection in my body and it just attacked my spinal cord and made me this way. So that has been bugging me for a few weeks now. So yeah, that's why I made this video, was just to talk about it and kind of get it off my chest, because it's been bugging me. I'm like, why would she say that, blah blah blah. And like, I don't know, like, it kind of pisses me off that I looked up transverse myelitis, read up on it and everything because I was curious about it, and not once did I think, oh yeah, an infection could have, caused this. Like, it could be an actual spinal cord injury that happened, or an infection that happened, and it just never occurred. Like, hey, guess what? It was this thing that was in your body, and it just happened. I told my transverse myelitis story so many times, but I'm assuming that the pain that I was feeling that night, the night that I got transverse myelitis, I was in bed, sound asleep. I think it was like probably like 1 or 2 in the morning. I woke up with severe back pain. So I think that was the infection that was attacking my spine. So I ended up waking up with severe back pain, and I was actually having a dream at that moment that there was a person that had a mask on. I couldn't see who it was, and I was up against the wall, and they were just sitting there stabbing the shit out of my back. And I woke up and I was having severe back pain, and I got out of bed. I could walk, and I was like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, but I kind of don't want to go to the bathroom. I'm just like, I'm gonna go to lay out on the couch. Then I decided, you know what, I should go to the bathroom. I shouldn't hold it. So I turned back around and started heading down to the bathroom and realized that I was losing balance. So I held on to the wall and walked my way down to the bathroom. I got to the bathroom, and that's when I lost everything from my hip down. So everything from my hips down was completely lost, and then I crawled into my parents' room. So yeah, that's the reason why I made this video, because for 14 freaking years I tried to remember, and I don't know. It never occurred to me. But now we all know the mystery of Alicia's spinal cord injury. It wasn't really an injury. it was just an infection or something in in my body, and this is how it happened. I don't know, like, I feel so stupid because I'm like, oh, I think I injured my spine and this is how it happened. We don't know how it happened, blah, blah, blah. I feel like, and the thing is, I feel stupid as well because I looked it up so many times, read about it so many times, but yet not once did it, like, occurred to me like that is a thing that happened. But yeah, and another thing I want to talk about, I want to talk about injuries that I had happen. There was, I don't remember if this injury happened when I had my disability or was it for my disability. I can't remember where it took place. I'll tell you this injury, but I don't know if it was before my transverse myelitis or after. It wasn't having to do with me walking or anything. There's two where I'm walking and I got these injuries, and then the third one is where it wasn't even having to do with my injury at all, and it was me and my brother just fucking around. So we were a wrestling family. We watched wrestling. And then, of course, me, my sister, my brother, we all decided that we want to wrestle and stuff like that. And we were in my parents' room and we were wrestling around. And I was on my back and my brother was sitting down on top of me. And I think he was trying to pin me. And I put my hands up. I'm like, no, no. And then he sat down on my hand, this wrist, to be exact, the one with the heart on it. He bent it backwards and, like, you could hear it crunch. So it legitimately felt like it was going to break, and I, like, screamed bloody murder. It hurt so bad. I didn't break it. I'd never broken a bone in my body ever in my whole entire life. I've never broken a bone in my body. I could one time say I'd never had surgery in my life, but I ended up having surgery last year. If you didn't know, I had surgery last year because I had an cyst that grew on my ovary and I had to get it removed. It's like, I think it went out of socket and then popped back in, and of course I screamed bloody murder, and then I ended up having to wear a wrist thing on my wrist because it was just sprained, luckily. Since we're talking about sprains, I had sprained my wrist, both wrists, multiple times because I had to use my wheelchair in and out of school, and I mostly used it a lot when I was in school, but when I was out of school I didn't really use it because I just didn't want to be in my wheelchair. But sometimes I would use it outside of school, but mostly I would use it inside of school. I had to push myself around all the time, and I would end up spraining my wrist. I don't know how. I just end up spraining my wrist. Either it's my left wrist I sprain or my right I sprain. I don't know. Sometimes I will sprain my wrist randomly by just pushing my wheelchair around. And pretty sure I have carpal tunnel in both wrists because I sprained them so much. I have carpal tunnel in both my wrists. And then the other time that I hurt myself, these are the two times that I hurt myself while I was walking. We used to sleep in the living room because we were poor. We were dirt poor. We could barely afford heat, and when we did get heat, we had a hard time keeping it in the house because it was around winter time. Us warm is like that, and instead of heating the whole entire house, we heated one section of the house. So we did the living room. So we all were sleeping out in the living room. My mom had her big mattress out in the living room, and we had a whole bunch of blankets out there and stuff like that. I was coming out of the kitchen. We didn't have rug. We had rug, but we ripped it up and replaced it with hardwood flooring. And so I stepped on the blanket and I slid and I went down, and when I went down I fell the weirdest way and I sprained my knee, like the rubber band part that here's your knee and here's your foot. Let's say this is the foot and then this is my thigh. The band in between here, I like almost ripped it because of the way I fell. So I just like stretched that band and to the point where it almost ripped, but it didn't, luckily. It was just really badly sprained. So I had a thing on my leg, so I had to keep my leg straight, and I was like hobbling. So I had to be in my wheelchair for a few days because I couldn't walk around with my knee always having to be straight. The second time I got injured due to my walking disability is I was walking, I don't know where we were going or what we were doing, but I remember we were in a parking lot and we were walking somewhere, and suddenly I tripped over my foot. I just tripped over my foot. My right leg is the one with the brace, and I tripped and like I don't know, it did something weird and I just heard like the ankle bone just like crunch and it hurt really bad. I sprained it like super bad, and to this day the bone to my ankle is like it's sitting weirdly and I can walk on it fine. It doesn't hurt. So yeah, there you go. I just wanted to tell you guys that I am stupid. I don't know. I seriously don't get it. How I could like go so many years wondering how I ended up with transverse myelitis. I figured it out. There you go. I think that's how I got my transverse myelitis. And for 14 years it took me to get to this point. I feel like somebody did at some point tell me, and I just in the past there's so much going on back then that I can understand why it might have like went right over my head because I was going through so much back then. And I wanted to talk to you guys about my injuries because things happen. I fall here and there. Sometimes my knee will give out. Like I'll be walking and then randomly my knee will just buckle and I will almost fall. Yesterday I went to I was walking the hiking trails with Alyssa, that's my mentor. We were at I love hiking even though it hurts my back. Like it kills me to walk. It hurts so freaking much to do any amount of walking, but I really wanted to go out and go for a walk because I haven't been exercising since we've been in lockdown. So she's like, oh, let's go to the hiking trail that is kind of close by. And I'm like, okay. And the hiking trail was great, but then it came to this one point where it wasn't so great. And I took it easy. I had my walker with me, so everything was great. And then I stepped on this one rock and my foot just went whee! And I legitimately almost fell flat on my back, but luckily because I had my walker, I grabbed onto it and kept my balance and made my way down, and yeah, it was a really great time. I had a lot of fun. So I had plenty of times where I almost fell. I've fallen and stuff like that, but like I never really hurt myself. Bryn tripped me and I went down hard and my back hurt for a while, which scared me because anything that has to do with back, I made a video on that I have anxiety about people hurting their backs because of my thing. It happened with me, even though I didn't know at the time that it wasn't an injury that happened. It was actually an infection that happened. But even though I still have anxiety about my back, even though now I know why, but it doesn't kill the fact that I have this anxiety about backs getting injured. So he tripped me up. He tripped me up a few days ago, and I'm just like, Kat, you know you cannot trip me up. I am on balance. If you step out in front of me, I've always had a hard time when I'm walking around children or animals because they don't know that I have a disability. But Rin, he's lived with me so freaking long. He should know by now that I'm unstable and cannot dodge his freaking ass. I wanted to talk more about my disability because I know I make some videos here and there about my disability, but I don't really make many videos on my disability. I wanted to talk to you guys about some stuff that I was planning for my channel. I'm not going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. I just want to tell you that when I created my channel to be a multi thing, like anime if I want to make an anime video, talking video if I want to sit down and just talk to the camera, and gaming, obviously, gaming, definitely. And when I started gaming, I didn't just want to do Sims, I wanted to do other games, obviously, but I always didn't want to spend the money because I'm on a fixed income, so I can't really just be like, oh yeah, I want this new game, just like spend the money on it. I obviously have to make sure my bills are paid and then I can, buy a game. But sometimes when I pay all my bills, I ended up not having enough money to buy a game. But lately I've been doing very good at saving money, so I've been buying games, and I ended up getting some games given to me as well as gifts. So I've been wanting to do some other games on my channel. So that is what's going to be happening. I'm going to be starting playing other games on my channel. I'm not going to tell you what games. I love Sims. I'm still going to be playing Sims, but I'm also going to be playing other games. Like I played The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2 on here. Now I'm going to play some other games around the spooky season. I actually have a game that for the spooky season that I'm going to be playing with you guys starting October. I will be live streaming more often. I'm going to be playing a horror game for October and then some other games. But like I said, I'm not going to tell you guys it because I want it to be a surprise. I want to diverse my channel more. Like when I started this channel, that's what I wanted. I wanted diversity. I didn't want it to be one thing. I didn't want my channel to be all simming. I wanted it to be multiple different games, just like that. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to start diversing my channel, getting into different games and playing different games. But The Sims will always be there. I will always forever be playing The Sims and doing series on my channel about The Sims. Anyways, that is the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Ring that bell if you want to see more videos from me. Subscribe if you want to. And I'll see all you beautiful night wolves in the next video. Goodbye. Love is all